game is an amateur game. I mean, the professional side of it, there are idols and heroes and fun to watch them play. But I mean, if it wasn't for amateur golf, there would be no golf.
You have to remember, when you play a golf course and you're out there for 4 hours or whatever, you're only hitting a ball for 15 minutes of that. So there's a lot of time to look around.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Top 100 Clubhouse Podcast. I'm your host, James Henderson, and I'm very, very fortunate to have Matt Ginella on the podcast. How are you doing, Matt?
I'm doing well, guys. Thanks for having me.
I've also got Matt's friend Gorka, who's joining us all the way from the Basque region of Spain. So, Gorka, thank you very much for coming along as well.
Thank you, guys, and thank you, Matt, for coming.
My pleasure. This is amazing.
Well, we're going to get very nerdy. We're going to get very deep. If there's any point we feel like I'm asking a question that's just a bit ridiculous, please feel free to just say piss off, because that's how we do it in Scotland.
Sounds good. I've never ever really asked any podcaster to strike anything. I'm pretty much an open book, speak freely and let it rip. I've got myself in trouble for doing it, but it's okay. It is what it is. Invariably, you do and say things that some people take offense to, but that, you can't please all the people all the time. And if you are, you're probably not doing anything right.
Well, we've actually had a bit of just randomly go on a tangent here. We've had a bit of trouble at Top 100 recently because a lot of people don't like the fact that we have rated Parkland golf in the UK negatively, because if you compare it in the UK, yeah, it's good golf. But if you compare it to Parkland in America or Spain, it's nowhere near to the standard that you guys are able to do it over there. Yeah, it's a dime a dozen for a lot of Parkland golf in the UK if you compare it to American golf.
That's part of what I got in trouble for is, and again, what lens are you looking through, right? What perspective are you providing a ranking, or are you, I know that I am a North American traveler that has the experience of mostly Parkland golf or something other than what would be deemed true links golf. Over there, what we go to consume as a North American traveler with an emphasis on anything but links golf, we come chasing the best of links golf. So for us to go over, or for me to look at a ranking of UK and Ireland golf and, and see Parkland golf in the rank, it doesn't even compute because it's just not something we're hunting. It's not something we're chasing necessarily. There's exceptions to every rule, so to speak. But, or are you from there? You have, I know not a majority of golf in the UK and Ireland is links. There is a bunch of Parkland and there's good Parkland golf, but are you judging your Parkland golf against our Parkland golf? Are we judging our links golf against your links golf? Where does it start and where does it end? And then goes back to that lens, and then what are your sensibility? This is all so subjective. Everything is. There is no actual official right or wrong. And that's why any and all rankings create that debate, that conversation. And I look at some rankings and immediately I see one course better than another. And I think, well, I don't like this ranking at all. That makes no sense. Because if they're going to put that above that ranking's dead to me. But, and sometimes the rankings will be really good for 1 through 20 and then 21 through 50. It's like janky and wonky. And then it starts getting out of control. And then from 51 to 100 is always another sort of wild range of stuff that's a mix of, I know I got to get that in there, but it's not where I wanted. I'll just throw it in there, put that name in there, So I've kicked around rankings. I know what my favorites are. I know why. I've got different categories. I've got, and then you got the sentimentality of it all. But this is me. And, that's the way it works.
I think actually maybe let's start with that. Okay, so I normally at the end of every podcast ask what's your top 5 favorite golf courses, not best, favorites.
Yeah.
Ones that mean the most. So let's just go with that for the start.
Immediately start with the old course at St. Andrews. That to me is number one by a million. It's just in its own class, its own category. It's got its own It's got its own world. It's its own planet, honestly, because of its history and its relevance and where it sits and why, the home of golf, Old Tom Morris, to me, Old Tom is he's his own Mount Rushmore. It's, he's got architecture and championship golf and club fitting and agronomy. So he touches the four pillars of sort of the game. And that guy has had big influence on all four of those pillars. So,
yeah.
And then you think, the flat overlooking the 18th green where Sheila Walker, his great-great-granddaughter, still lives to this day. There's, and you leave town and then you come back to town and the double greens and the drivable fours and the, Swilken bridges and the, Valley of Sin and the, you just can't get enough. After that, now you're talking about, LaHinch for me. Waterville's in the conversation. Bandon Dunes, the OG Bandon Dunes, if you're talking about favorites. Pebble Beach is in that conversation for me. Cypress Point. It really starts getting hard to narrow it down to four right there. I think Pebble is definitely in that top five. Bandon Dunes is definitely in that top five. I think Bandon Trails is probably in that top five, as Core Crenshaw, not, talk about, essentially Parkland. It's sand-based, it's near the ocean, but it's, it's within the trees and it's certainly not links. And yeah, I do think Cypress is in there for me. So I'm a NorCal guy. So Bandon Dunes, Bandon Trails, Cypress Point, Pebble Beach, and Old Course at St. Andrews be, and then LaHinch, Waterville. Some of those start getting in there, smashed in there.
It's a very good list, but it's also a list of, you could say top quality quirk is more the, way.
Yeah, North Berwick is in that conversation too, by the way. Not saying this knowing that you live, 5 minutes away, but North Berwick is one top quality quirk. I've never heard that, said like that, but that who wouldn't want to play top quality quirk? You know what I mean? Like where things that hold your attention, keep it fun, keep it interesting, make it memorable, spark that intrigue, that adventure, the variety. All of those things matter if you're talking about favorites to me.
Well, that's the thing. There's the Old Course is very good at that. It's very good at just showing you things that you probably don't see every day.
Yeah, and it's different every day.
Yeah,
it's different every day, right? Like you're and so there's that too, depending on the weather and the direction and how you're playing shots and the shots you're forced to hit or imagine, sparking imagination in us. What great books, great movies, great conversations, good relationships, all of that. Right. That's what we're talking about here. What's same with art on the wall? What does it do for you? Does it elicit a good image, a good song? All of those things are filtering into the same type of essence of what we deem our favorites.
Speaking about you were on Mount Rushmore. You've got Old Tom. Who else is there?
Old Tom, I'll put Bill Core and Ben Crenshaw on there right away. As modern minimalists for me. And then what's in between would Alister MacKenzie is in there. And the last one is it would be do you put Seth Rayner and CB McDonald in the same bucket?
Yeah,
to me, Seth Rayner doesn't exist without old, CB McDonald. So CB, Seth Rayner, Bill Core, Ben Crenshaw, Old Tom and Alister MacKenzie. I'd be, if I'm just playing those guys, we're good.
You're winning. You're onto a winner. You're absolutely onto a winner.
Yeah.
So let's get into a wee bit of where it all started for you. Where did you start with golf? How did it all come?
A neighbor loved playing growing up as a kid and got invited out there one day with him. And we went out to the Sonoma County Fairgrounds and played this little 9-hole course that, still exists to this day, but we probably played it for $3, maybe, if that. Matt Cohen and his dad, Al Cohen. Matt Cohen was the outlier at that time. We were all playing football, basketball, baseball, soccer, anything that, that was that type of, prototypical sport there that, and for kids in Northern California. Matt Cohen was the one playing golf. Matt Cohen and I were really close. And so when I got the invite to go with Matt Cohen, okay, now I have a buddy who plays golf. I was doing all these other sports, but then I had an uncle who played golf a lot, high level. He was very into it. So Matt Cohen leads me and connects me to my uncle, who then, really takes me under his wing and tries to help me, teach me the grip. So it goes from a buddy to an uncle. My dad played occasionally, lifetime 22 handicapper, worked too hard to really ever be good or give too much time to the game at that time, especially. Yeah. I mean, I was the youngest of 5 kids. We had a lot going on. He was working his ass off. So, but I did enjoy golf with my dad. The issue for me is I couldn't play with my dad and my uncle because they didn't really get along. They would, especially my dad thought my uncle was a sandbagger. My uncle was like, just get better. And my dad couldn't get better. So, unfortunately, there was a bit of a fork in the road as it relates to that relationship, but I was able to have a lot of good golf memories with my dad and a lot of good golf memories with my uncle. Ultimately, I ended up riding horses, and when horses sort of hit a snag for me because a horse, colicked right before a big event, it was like I need to pour my energy and attention into something. And at that time, the high school team was really good, but they only had like 4 or 5 good players and they needed kind of depth. And I was like, well, I'll play golf. And so I threw myself into golf and really went after it as hard as I had done anything in life. I was way into it. I had worked at golf courses. I had worked on the agronomy team. I had worked in the pro shop at Chain Grips, picked range. So I'd worked around golf, played a little bit of golf. Timing came up and I started playing a lot more golf. And then into college, college back in the early 1990s, pre-Tiger Woods, you could play college golf and, barely break 80. And, it was like now if you're not breaking 70, you got no hope at playing college golf. So it was a different time. So I was able to play college golf on the side while I was also learning, about broadcasting and doing my schooling and stuff. And then I graduated and went and got a crazy lucky situation, got a non-paid internship at Sports Illustrated, knew somebody who knew somebody, got me in, and that, now I'm here, my non-paid intern at Sports Illustrated. And in the photo department, they needed someone to sort of help the assisting there. And I get a job at Sports Illustrated as the golf photo editor because no one else in the department really cared about golf like I did. And the guy who was the golf photo editor was leaving and going off to do another job. And he says to me, hey, I'll train you to do my job. And here it is. And they gave me that job. And the first week I took that job was the 1996 Milwaukee Open. That was the week Tiger Woods turned pro. So I become the golf photo editor the week that Tiger Woods turned pro. And from that point forward, the energy and interest and intrigue into the game of golf went to the moon. And I was on the rocket ship. And that changed everything.
What was it like watching that?
At the time, you don't even realize, but, hello world, right? That was the moment. He makes a hole-in-one at the 1996 Milwaukee Open. I mean, he never, I'm not sure we've ever looked back since, right? That's been, we're doing Golf Plus in the middle of Sports Illustrated's magazine. We're doing 30, 40 pages of golf-specific content each week in the middle of Sports Illustrated's weekly magazine. And I'm the photo editor, so I'm doing coordinating photo shoots with Tiger and his mom and his dad, and he's going to Thailand, and the business of it all is simultaneously growing with golf. The purses, the resistance to Tiger with the Fuzzy Zellers and the Curtis Stranges, and so the old guard, and not really warm and welcoming to this kid with it's just, he's looking him right in the eye and he's not blinking. It was amazing. It was fascinating and phenomenal in every way, shape, and form. We're watching the end of the wooden clubs and we're going into the metal heads. And 1997, I think Davis Love won the PGA that year with a wooden club. I mean, or was yeah. So, I mean, that your watch technology, the business, the eyes, the interest, Tiger, the absolutely wrecking ball to the sport as we knew it was amazing. It was incredible.
It must have been a very cool rocket ship to be on.
It was, and it I was at Sports Illustrated at the time, and I'm watching all the writers, and I'm working in the photo department and helping coordinate and produce the photo shoots. And we did the Tiger with the Tiger that ended up being on the cover of 1998, and that's a whole nother story. Rocking a 800-pound Tiger into Isleworth Country Club, and Tiger sitting down next to the Tiger was thank God he survived that photo shoot, because that would have changed everything. We wouldn't be talking right now. But no, it was, I ended up going back and getting my journalism degree at Columbia University while I was at Sports Illustrated, and then got hired at Golf Digest at the age of 29 as the director of photography for both Golf World and Golf Digest magazines, and got my writing degree in 2003, and then ultimately started writing for Golf Digest in 2006, 2007, travel writing. And then I've been probably traveling 100 to 200 days a year for the last 25 to 30 years because of this game, because of I'm chasing this game. So the amount of courses I've been able to see and play, and the people I've been able to meet, and the experiences I've had, that all is just one big bundle of stuff that I can't imagine, life without it. And it's all because of the game of golf.
When was your the aha moment for golf course architecture?
That's a really good question, because probably like most people, with the exception being people who've, become architects or whatever, I didn't have that as a kid. We're obviously, the beautiful thing about architecture is it's there and we're consuming it in most cases without even knowing it, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I've learned now. But at the time, you like holes, shots work for your eye and don't work for your eye. These are compelling holes. You're thinking about the hole before you even play the course. What's that? Why is that? Oh, that's architecture. But you don't know it at the time. You're just thinking about it. I think playing the old course for the first time, I remember playing it and going, what? This is the old course, seems pretty flat. Over the course, a lot of blind shots. You don't exactly know what's going on. You certainly don't. At that time, I didn't understand or appreciate old Tom Morris or the history of the old course or the home. I didn't even know what home of golf really meant. I knew you wanted to play St. Andrews, but to me, Pebble Beach was probably way more compelling and interesting because I had grown up in North California. I got to say, probably playing Pebble Beach for the first time, which was a graduation of high school. My dad took me down and we played Pebble Beach, Spyglass, and Spanish Bay in one little trip. And I think standing on the seventh tee of Pebble Beach and playing that golf hole where you're, again, was that an aha moment of like, oh, wow, this is architecture? That was an aha moment of, oh my God, this is so different. In the 7, 8, 9, 10, that stretch as you're managing, hit it to there, and then you got to go over this cliff to get to the 8th green. That was an aha moment of, this is very different than anything I've ever seen ever. Probably playing the old course the second or third time and learning, reading more about the game, understanding more about the game, covering the game, and then starting that intersection between, oh, this is special. Why is it special? Oh, this is coming home, the concept of template holes certainly I had no idea what that was, but double greens, drivable par fours, North Berwick. I remember playing North Berwick, and the hole in which, there's the rock walls, outcroppings, and you got to hit it over that, that now it starts coming together as this is a journey. You're starting here, you're ending here, and there's a lot in between. A routing of a golf course, the nuance of, you don't go at the pin, you hit it over here and try to get it to go to the pin. That all started happening as I started traveling, as I started listening, and as I started learning.
While you're doing that process, what would you recommend to someone that would start on that process? How would you get them think?
It is about asking yourself, what do you like and why? Like almost putting it back on yourself to say, okay, what are your top 10 courses you've played? Why? What are your top 10 holes you've played? Why? So almost work backwards, because again, unless you want to read, Scotland's Gift or read a couple of the kind of the original books about architecture, which that's pretty heavy, nerdy. That's a real huge dose of nerd, right? Of education. So I would almost, the part of the fun of it is discovering architecture, right? To me, the big part of the fun of it is discovering what it is that you like, and then why you like it. So my suggestion is based a lot on my experience, going back to rankings and the subjectivity of it all. To me, it's asking yourself, get around. First of all, move around, play a lot of stuff, and then ask yourself, what do you like and why do you like it? And then start trying to learn the specifics. And simply asking, who built this golf course? What year was it built? Has there been modifications and changes? Who did that and why? That education, is very helpful.
It's something that's, I know in America, there's a lot of pride in who built their golf course. There's a lot of pride in the architect comparatively to probably over here. Obviously, there's people like Old Tom and Harry Colt that stand out, but I would say the majority of Harry Colt members would know that Harry Colt existed and did their stuff, but doesn't really know much about who he was, why he was so good.
Yeah, and that's probably also because a lot of people, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of people over there tend to play their home course for the most part, right? Unless you're wandering around and understanding why Harry Colt was so great, then you would almost take Harry Colt for granted. If you're going out and playing, La Hinch every day, you're not really caring about all the different architects who have come along and touched that golf course necessarily, because it's your home course. You know it, you love it, you play it, and maybe you go play one down the road. But even in Ireland, I've played a lot of places in Ireland, and I go, oh, I love this course. With the Irish, they go, I haven't even played that. I haven't been down to one. I've never been down to, a 5-hour drive for someone who's in Ireland. It's not, why are we going to go do that? We got La Hinch and, Tralee and, we're right here. We got Doonbeg. We're good. Yeah. So I think there's also just a human nature to take things for granted, and just say, why would you go anywhere? You're near North Berwick. You've got 5 of like the top 100 within, an hour and a half of you.
Yeah. Very fortunate. To be honest with you, I didn't really leave for a long time, but then I saw the error of my ways.
Yeah.
Do you know, one thing I've always wondered is why Americans make such good golf travelers. Why are they the curious bunch?
I wish more Americans traveled more, to be honest with you. I think that's a big fundamental issue with what's going on in our country right now is we're
I can't get a tea time already. Stop it, Matt. Come on.
Tap the brakes on that. I can only imagine. Yeah, you probably don't like the curious American travelers.
Oh no,
but
it's great.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I think, we live in a big country, and there's a lot of incredible stuff that's come up in our country that I think once you get going and you start hunting these lists or these rankings, and you start thinking to yourself, oh, I've done that, but I keep hearing that if I haven't done this, then I haven't done it. Right. So then it's like, oh, you got to go that. No, you got to go that. So then it's like, I think social media has been a big part of that. I think the dynamics of current media have been a big part of that. I think golf's level of interest and the popularity of the game has led to a lot of where we're at. There's an economic aspect to all of this, being able to afford it. Now, I think we're probably at some form of a tipping point there as it relates to economics and the availability, the accessibility. To your point, can't get a tee time. Well, that's always a potential issue. So
this episode is brought to you by the Lockhart Travel Club. We believe golf is more than a game. It's a journey. A journey we've made across 34 of the world's top 100 courses last year, and now is your turn. We curate bespoke travel experiences for passionate golfers who expect nothing but the best. Membership is limited, so join us at lockharttravelclub.com.
The fact that there's concentration of great golf across America, right? All across America. And then there's vast areas of America that don't have a abandoned dunes or a national golf links or whatever nearby. So being able to get on a plane and just get to one of these locations and the encouragement of that within America helps.
Again, I think buddies trips, utilizing the game as the venue for reunions or special events. Oh, my dad's 50th, my 50th, my buddy's 50th. We have a group from college who haven't gotten together. We need an opportunity and a venue and an experience that is going to lend itself to us getting together, camaraderie, a little competition, continuity to the group. 4 leads to 8, leads to then let's add 4 more guys. Oh, I got a buddy who would love to come here. So the development of the buddies trip and going back to the popular, and the intersection of the popularity of the game, the cool factor with Tiger Woods, all these other celebrities, athletes, and interesting people coming to the game. I think this has been a massive groundswell of growth and evolution of the game and how the game is consumed and who's consuming the game. Then layer in now women, kids, things like First Tee, but also youth on course, affordability and accessibility, staying at the peak of a lot of these organizations of how can we make sure this does keep growing. I mean, that's all been happening. Whether we think about it or know it or write about it or cover it, that's been happening. I have been writing about it. I have been covering it. I have been watching it because I've been doing it since 1995. And if you go back to 1995 or Milwaukee Open of 1996, and you want to talk about a sort of a flag in the ground, that's where this latest run starts. Now, prior to that, it was Arnold Palmer, and prior to that, it was Ben Hogan and Byron Nelson. Prior to that, it was Bobby Jones, and prior to that, it was that go back to the old Tom Morris 1800s. So there's been many moments like this, but I think we're on a incredible run. Tiger just turned 50. What's next?
It's a weird one because I see it from my side of the pond, right? And I've seen it from the links perspective, where I've watched very few small groups of Americans be able to turn up at North Berwick or Gullen or wherever and just knock on the door and come onto the golf course, ask for tea time, to now being sold out in 1 minute.
If you look, like I said, if you look at something, 30 years ago, it was this, and today it's this. It's crazy to think about how everything has changed. But for me, or a lot of people out there who have been around the game and studying it and covering it very intimately for the last 3 decades, we have been plotting the dots as we go along. And there's been some humps and bumps, certainly as relates to America. And I know over there as well in getting here, but, because we built too much, built too hard, too generic. If you go Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, and Gary Player, all, bona fide champions and on a Mount Rushmore of their own as players, they are not on there as architects. Yeah. But they built a combined almost 1,200 golf courses between 3 of them that have their name on it. But was that just a business for them? Was that a conveyor belt of opportunity for them? Were they in the tractor? No. Were they building anything? No. They had a whole slew of different people building it for them. We don't even know their names. We don't even know who they are or what they did or what their background was. There are exceptions, but for the most part, give me a top 100 list and tell me how many number of courses that those guys built that are on those lists. The percentage is small versus the Tom Dokes and the Core Crenshaws and the David Kidds and the Gil Hansons, or the other, the golden age, the golden era architects who built not a lot of courses, but the ones that they built were really good, So we had some mistakes along the way. But we are constantly fixing, tweaking, restoring, renovating, reimagining, and learning.
What do you think makes a good renovation, a good project? Because you do a lot of covering of these things. What do you think is the most important things?
There's a lot of levels to that, but coming off a Pasatiempo where you take an Alister MacKenzie original back in the late 20s and early 30s, and you take MacKenzie and why he matters, and you put that in a semi-private, essentially public venue in Santa Cruz, and you learn about how and why that golf course mattered in the beginning. Marion Hollins and MacKenzie's relationship. Here's a woman in the 30s who was then, partnering with one of these mega architects and had relationships with people like Bobby Jones. And, you got Ben Hogan, and you got these people, Augusta National, and, the building of Augusta National, all that matters, right? Then you take Pasatiempo and you take these 18 greens and what they were known for in this golf course. And then you learn about how and why it lost its way with sand splash and washouts and, runoff and, the mowing patterns, and just you learn about agronomy in general, and you want to talk about geeking out, and you literally go down in the ground which is going down in history, which is going back to the past. And then you take a guy like Jim Urbina, who's well-versed and educated about intent of MacKenzie and golf and well-read. He can quote you, from 10 different books right now. And he can, his books are all marked up and quoted. And so you take him and you take a long-lasting history working on the restoration of the golf course from tee up to the green, but not touching the greens, with Tom Doak. Obviously, he's very well educated and understands the intent and nuance of architecture. And you give Urbina the chance to then, and the resources to go back and peel that back very thoughtfully with the right kind of intent, with the right kind of membership. They call them shareholders. These people that literally have a vested interest in their club. And you say, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to do it right. And then you take, a Justin Mandan, who's the superintendent, the head of agronomy there. And he's a genius, right? He's a prodigy as it relates to grass and agronomy and the study of it all, and his own club, right? He knows it like the back of his hand. So you take Earth Sculptures, which is a well-versed company as it relates to MacKenzie, and you put all of these pieces together. And we documented this in a 2-part docuseries. It's probably 60 minutes in length total. And we did it through the lens of the 16th green, a 4-tiered green that was built on like this probably piece of land that not many people can actually make into a green. And it becomes one of the most famous greens. And you watch them restore not only that, but all the other 18 greens at a place like Pasatiempo. And that to me is a meaningful restoration. Oakland Hills, meaningful restoration. Pinehurst number 2, very meaningful restoration. Donald Ross, Crown Jewel, lost its way. Reese Jones, different vision. The gall and the chutzpah to say, I'm going to change Donald Ross.
Yeah.
And, and then you're chasing U.S. Opens. But for then the Pinehurst leadership and the Dedman family and Don Paget, Tom Pashley, who's there now to this day, to say, we're taking number 2 back to where it belongs. Wow, they're in the middle of hosting U.S. Opens, in the middle of that process. To say, hold on, record scratch, we're going back. Bill Core and Ben Crenshaw, thoughtfully, intellectually, creatively, going back, finding the center line irrigation. This is intent. This is what it should look like and how it should play for the most part. Someone in town coming up to Core Crenshaw, don't screw this up. As this course goes, this town goes, the pressure. Those are very meaningful restorations and renovations that matter in the big scheme of things, and gives us opportunity to be educated. That gives us, the outsiders, an opportunity to see and learn about that was then it became this, and it's going back to that. And wow, that was successful.
What's the difference between, what do you think the difference is between a renovation and a restoration?
Well, restoration is restoring it back to its original intent. A renovation is, I think, a pivot or an audible on what it was to what it becomes.
How different is the approach?
Well, I think in a restoration, you're going back and utilizing black and whites and images and information and what's in books and catalogs and notebooks, and you know what I mean? And you're piecing that together. Drawings. A renovation is kind of disregarding all of that, and you're saying, I'm going to take this section, or I'm going to take the whole thing, and I'm going to do something totally different.
Do you think that one's better than the other, or do you think it's all to do with place and location?
I think it's case per case.
Who do you think? Who's the best at each currently alive?
I think there are variations to that too. Bill and Ben don't do a lot of restorations. I think, for the most part, they're only doing so many things. So what they're going to do is probably build their own thing. But in the case of Pinehurst #2, that was very intriguing to them. Bill Core grew up playing Pinehurst, not far away from Pinehurst #2, grew up playing that, has a great appreciation and reverence for Donald Ross himself. So in their mind, that's not their course. That's a Donald Ross golf course that they restored. In everybody else's mind, it's Donald Ross, Bill Core, and Ben Crenshaw in a way, you know what I mean? But I think Tom Doak obviously can do a great restoration and has. I think Jim Urbina is great at, has done some great restorations. And he seems to be a guy who does more restorations than original builds. He actually hasn't done, other than maybe a select group of restorations. David Kidd isn't doing a lot of restorations. Gil Hance, I think, is better at restoring than new builds, to be totally honest. He has done good new courses, but I think his best work has been his thoughtful, and that's a credit to his thought and education and information and how he interprets that, because there's always a little interpretation on a restoration. How he interprets that into the finished product is part of his superpower.
You've followed all these guys. You know them well. You've worked with them. What separates them?
I was just thinking about this the other day. The amount of architects I've been in the dirt with, watching them actually bring something to life, is staggering. And I find that to be one of the greatest gifts I've been given with what I do and how I've done it and what I've been paid to do, for a living. But I find them all to be so different and so unique. And I find their personalities and who they are as people ends up actually looking and feeling a lot like what they build.
Okay.
If that makes any sense. Bill Core and Ben Crenshaw will tell you about, they are genteel, warm, kind, gracious gentlemen that think about the 30 and 50 yards leading into a green as the entrance of what it is that you would have as your entryway to your home. And they want that to be warm and welcoming, and and I feel like if you sit down and have a dinner with Bill and Ben and watch how they ask more of you than you can of them, and they listen to what you say and how you say it, and they ask about your wife and your kids and where you're from and why, and they're just so kind and gracious. Well, go play one of their golf courses. They are artists. They create art. You tend to want to play their golf courses over and over again, just like you'd want to sit down and have dinner with them over and over again. David Kidd he's a character, and he's charismatic, and he is interesting and fun and constantly creating analogies and metaphors and talking about things. And if you go play a David Kidd golf course, like they're full of character, and they're charismatic, and they're fun, and they're interesting, and I see David in what he builds. Gil Hance is very cerebral and very thoughtful, very intellectual. You go play a Gil, sit down at a dinner with Gil, and you're going to learn a lot about life and architecture. And you go play a Gil Hance golf course, you're going to have to be smart and thoughtful in how you play them and how you know what I'm saying? Tom Doak he's fascinating. He's brilliant, right? He's genius. He's all those things. He's well read. He's well educated. But you sit down and have a dinner with Tom Doak or you spend a little time with Tom Doak, it's not easy. The conversation it doesn't flow. It's choppy. You're pulling stuff out of him. He's very content sitting in silence and not exchanging, having that exchange. Play a Tom Doak golf course. It's not easy. You got to pull it out of it. You got to play it probably more than once or twice or three times before you really start enjoying it because you got to get to know a lot about him before he opens up and becomes comfortable with you. Do you see what I'm saying?
There on your first visit.
There's a lot to say about how each individual personality and character of the person then becomes the character of their golf. King Collins are these guys that are, one guy's really tall and one guy's small and they're big and they're bold and they're boisterous and they're full of, opinions and egos and go play one of their golf courses. Like, holy shit, what's going on here? The greens are wild and zany and wacky, but if you like that, if that's your type of guy, you're probably going to like their golf course.
What do you think about King Collins and Dornoch? That was an interesting move.
I can't wait to see what's going to happen here. You know what I mean? Like, it's interesting.
The way you said it, if Scottish golf had a golf course that would be bold and sounds like a King Collins course, Dornoch probably would be the one.
I'm intrigued. It's kind of like one of those things where maybe not a lot of people would have thought of it right out of the jump, but after you go, I think that could work.
Well, that was an extremely interesting breakdown of the architects and their golf courses, because it's not often you hear them. Everyone compares them all the time, but you don't hear someone who's been around them in the ground and seen them working and spoken to them and done these things with them.
Well, you're going to see what's really cool is, at Bandon Dunes, you have everybody but Gil there. At Streamsong, you're going to have the four modern minimalists that you would consider the Mount Rushmore of this generation, with Bill and Ben building red and Tom Doak building blue and Gil building black. And now what David Kidd is going to do on what they haven't released the name of it yet, but the fourth course at Streamsong, you will be able to actually go to one place and take what it is that I just explained to you and maybe try to apply that in those four experiences and courses, in which I think red is very indicative of who Bill and Ben are. I think blue is very indicative of who Tom is. I think black is very indicative of who Gil and Jim Wagner are. And I think in what you're going to see with what David has built, that's going to be true there as well.
I'm very intrigued because I've played all the other three. I've not obviously played David's because it's not opened yet.
Yeah.
And there is the Gil's course is just so different to the other two. You can see similarities between Doak's but there's also a lot of creativity, like that par 3 that can go from 75 yards to 175 yards, depending on where the pin and the tee is. On Doak's course, and you can see him being creative and a bit wacky and a lot of greens on grade, where there's beautiful built golf holes that Core Crenshaw frames these wonderful shapes to holes.
There's the artistry of the red. There's the challenge and quirk and dynamics of blue and the greens of blue that are direct. And you had the two firms building at the same time. And I'm doing a docu-series right now for Streamsong on behalf of Kemper Sports on the building of Streamsong from the beginning, well before it was golf, until now, which is going to be essentially 5 golf courses if you count the chain. And it's going to be, I'm looking at a lot of what took place. We have a recession, not much is being built. There's not a lot of work going on. And you have Bill Core and Ben Crenshaw shoulder to shoulder with Tom Doak in a piece of property that it tangles within each other, within stuff. Like you literally get confused. You don't know which course you're on at any given moment. You can literally step off one green and go to a tee of the other course without even knowing it. And so looking at that time of development and golf and economics of it all on this purified sand, it's a fascinating study of those two firms and those two products.
Is it true that Tom Doak designed one hole on red, and the Core Crenshaw designed one hole on blue?
I'm not sure that they designed a hole that was from tee to green, but I think there were green sites. At that time, they were still trying to figure out, okay, how much golf do we have out here? How many should we build? Who builds them? Okay, these two firms are going to, how are we going to divvy this up? Who gets that green? Because I think Tom will tell you that I think his favorite green is the 10th green on the red, drivable par 4 uphill, that I think Tom really liked that green, thought it was the best, wanted that green, but by picking blue, he didn't get that, he didn't get that green, but he preferred the routing of the blue. He picked first and he picked what was then deemed the blue. So I think there was they had walked around, they had identified a lot of golf, and then it was like, okay, who wants what would be that course, and you take that course. And so there, as I'm, flushing out these stories, there's going to be a lot of really cool anecdotes that come about. So
I'm looking forward to hearing that. Speaking about destinations and golf trips, you've done a lot of them. What's your favorite golf trip you've ever been on?
Man, the last one I was on. I do an annual trip to Bandon Dunes every year. It's my group of 23 friends and myself, and it's the Uncle Tony Invitational. And Bandon really works for us because it's multiple courses and short course and putting course, and we implement all of that into the framework of what we have as a buddies trip. I think the southwest coast of Ireland and the discovery of Lahinch and Tralee and Waterville and Old Head and Ballybunion, and that's going to resonate with me for the rest of my life. And those courses and what I've been able to go back and do will always matter. I think my education and evolution around the trips I've taken to St. Andrews, the old course, and being able to spoke out and learn about that. You have to do St. Andrews. You have to do the trip that sort of builds around St. Andrews. That's first and foremost. After that, southwest coast of Ireland. After that, sort of the north and northwest of Ireland is got to be part of the fabric. And then Bandon Dunes. And then, I know in England, the Links Along the Line is an epic education and trip and experiences. But after St. Andrews in Scotland, that spoke, and after southwest of Ireland, and after northwest Ireland, and after Bandon Dunes, now you're talking about Melbourne, Australia. To me, that I remember asking Tom Doak at one point, what would be your favorite golf destination in the world? He said Melbourne, Australia. I was like, Melbourne, Australia? What? Then you go to Melbourne and you're like, oh my God. That's like 3 Bandon Dunes within 30 minutes to an hour of each other. You're talking about 15 iconic, excellent, exceptional golf courses all within an hour of each other.
And an hour of the center of Melbourne, which is a wonderful city.
It's amazing. So yeah, I think that would be that. That would be, and then, oh, by the way, Monterey Peninsula. I mean, that's a whole other can of worms. But and then you got the emerging, the Sand Valleys and the Streamsongs and Michigan and God, it just keeps going and going.
I've noticed that what you have said there is a bunch of golf courses that are very open to the public. You not mentioned areas that are like predominantly private. So like, I don't know, in the New York area or whatever.
Long Island, yeah.
Long Island.
Well, I don't even consider them. I don't even consider them. Those are because the minute you start talking predominant private stuff, then you're talking about less than 2% that actually get a chance to experience it. So to wax poetic about a bunch of places that nobody can play seems to be a waste of everybody's time. You know, people that are of that 2%, they know about them. They're going to get to them. They're probably members at one or two of them anyway. So I don't feel like it's a worthwhile, endeavor to discuss. And that's the beauty of UK and Ireland is we can talk about all these incredibly, iconic experiences and you can play them. That's why Passe Tiempo is so cool. And that model is it's very similar to the UK and Irish model, which is, we have members and shareholders and we're semi-private, but you can also play it. And it's Alister MacKenzie.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. And one of his great masterpieces as well.
Yeah, totally. I mean, he didn't do a lot of clunkers,
Well, I've had this argument with people. Alister MacKenzie, I don't know what he discovered in Australia, but he hasn't his ability to build golf courses in the UK is never as good as what he was able to do in Australia and in America. And I don't know what he discovered in Australia.
Well, it's really good land. I mean, it's really good sand.
It's perfect, right?
Yeah. And there's a lot of it. So
it just feels like there's a tie-in to like his bunkers tie-in better the moment he goes to Australia. His everything sits better with the ground. It just feels like it was less manufactured, and I don't know. There's some moment that I would love to see a letter of him describing what he learned in Australia. But
the scale there is unbelievable, right?
Oh, it's incredible.
You haven't lived until you've walked around Royal Melbourne, and the amount of holes, the scale. I've never, Mammoth Dunes is from a scale standpoint is the only thing I can remember walking around going, wow, there's so much space and room and options. And it really is like, you can kind of hit it where you want off the tee, but that where you hit it is going to then impact your second shot. So does that make it a second shot golf course? Yes, but does still matter where you hit it off the tee. You're just going to be able to find it, which is so much fun. Yeah. And then there's the amount of movement at Melbourne, where how much from where your ball lands to where it ends up. That distance at Melbourne is unlike anything anywhere else in the world. I think it's in part because of the undulation and the geography and the topography, but also the firm and fast conditions that you play it in. So the ball just keeps going.
It's so cool when you watch a ball bounce the height of the flag when it lands on the green. It's just like, what am I doing here?
Melbourne especially, you never, ever, ever take aim at the pin, ever.
No, it's not that at all. It's aim for the best position that you can get to.
Yeah, and then and talk about being a member at a club. Wouldn't you love to be a member at Royal Melbourne and be able to play those courses because the variety and the pin placements, the tees and the weather and the conditions and can you imagine? You never have ever played the same course twice.
Have you ever played the composite?
Yeah, well, that's what that's not true. We played the West and walked a bunch, right? We walked a bunch of the other holes, so we weren't able to.
Pretty much members and pros that get to play the composite.
Yeah. I haven't.
Try that. It's that internal paddock.
In my head, I think I have, but in reality, I haven't.
I played both. I played the West and East, so I know all the holes. It's just apparently the flow of the golf course changes completely.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That'd be special.
Yeah, very much so. What makes a good golf trip?
The people you're with. I mean, you got to start there, right? I mean, you can't there's not a lot of wiggle room there. You have to be surrounded by people that the chemistry there within the group. And once you have that, now you can get through the weather. You can get through the twists and turns and the
quadruple bogeys,
whatever, like if you're with the right, and that could be one person, it could be 3 people, it can be 11 people, it can be 15, the 15 others, like whatever the number is, just making sure you're with the right people, and then those are the ones you're going to end up talking about it with, and remembering and rehashing, and the text thread that I have for the last 15 years of the Uncle Tony Invitational is everything to me, because it's not just the days we're together. It's all the days thinking about what we've done together and what we might do together.
Yeah.
It's a mix of looking back and looking forward, and the excitement and the energy. My wife says to me all the time, I can't believe how much time, effort, and energy you put into this annual buddies trip, and you struggle to plan date night for us once a week. And I'm like, it's fair, and I can't necessarily disagree, and I don't know why, but that's part of who we are, as guys who like to be with our buddies. I don't know what it is.
I've got the exact same thing. My father started a tournament 51 years ago, where we play the open course every year before the Open.
Oh, wow.
So when my father passed away, I took on the chalice, and I've been running it, and it's really cool. And we have such a variety of people. There'll be like a guy who's 84 from Long Island, and there'll be a farmer from the Black Isle in Scotland, and it's just the most extreme variety. It's really quite fun.
That's first of all, it sounds like an incredible story, and if you haven't written or done video about that, then you should. I mean, that what a tradition and what a story. I can only imagine the layers of 51 years of doing something like that, and especially such a cool concept of leading into the Open venue. But same kind of thing at my group. I've got my best friend from high school, my roommate from college, and I've got the president of Pinehurst and the president of Kemper Sports, and the tournament director of the AT&T and the Pure Insurance, and I got a couple musicians who like to play guitars around fire pits, who are also members at Baltusrol, or it's like I got teaching pros, I got buddies. Essentially, I have always treated as the people I've picked up along the way who've become close friends through and with the game of golf. And that's what my uncle did. He linked people together. John Ashworth is on the trip. He's become like a brother to me. It's like, it's just an incredible mix of good humans, and I'm lucky to call them friends.
They're such a cool thing. There's something really romantic. Romantic sounds ridiculous, but it's the romantic.
Word. Oh, it does sound ridiculous, but it is exactly the word that should be used.
Yeah, I think, it's not one that...
Going back to date night.
Well, I went to an all-boys boarding school, so I wouldn't have got away with calling it romantic without being called something else.
Hey, it is. There's elements to the romance where you're like, wow. And to my wife's point, how can you care more about this than, the weekly date night? And then, therein lies the challenge of balance, but there's something there. The amount of joy it brings, and and the memories and the moments and the camaraderie is second to none.
Yeah, very much so. What golf courses you played? How many golf courses do you know? How many you played?
I have tried to sit down and run the numbers, because if you go 100 to 200 days a year on the road for 30 years, and then you start thinking about how many courses I've played per state and then per country, and you start, running the numbers, it's a really big number. It's actually for what people, if I said the number out loud, let's say it's 1,500, or it's like an obscene, crazy number. And you'd think, that sounds ridiculous. It does. It sounds ridiculous to me, but it's everywhere from the Winter Park Nines and the Goat Hill Parks and the Canal Shores to Shore Acres. Shore Acres is another that's on my list of top courses. And Chicago is another destination, but that's predominantly private. So that fall into that Philadelphia, New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Los Angeles conversation where it's like, oh, what a bunch of great courses, great golf trip if you can get on. And not many can, but it's it's wild.
I've obviously been British. I've done a few trips to America. I'm going back over in 9 days, but it's very difficult. It's very difficult. If you want to, especially for someone like myself, I would really want to go see all the best golf courses in the world. I don't want much. I just want to have one round. One round's all I want. It's all I need. Just want to see these places, but it's so hard.
Well, and that goes back to one of your questions about what's the deal with North American travelers coming and wanting to experience some of what you have over there. First of all, we can get there. We can have access to it. You flip that script and you are saying, if you look at our top 100 and you're saying, how many of these can I play that's accessible to, the public without making some phone calls and knowing somebody and trying to get on and getting a member to play. It's night and day from us to you versus you to us. It doesn't compare.
What golf courses have you not done yet that you want to do?
Crystal Downs is one that I haven't done. Shinnecock, I've walked it and covered it. I haven't played it. I've had a couple invites and I haven't been able to do it, and I'm kind of bummed about that. So I think Shinnecock and Friars Head, Crystal Downs are three that always kind of gravitate towards the top for me.
Okay.
As far as UK and Ireland and I feel like I have been so blessed and been given incredible opportunities to actually essentially had the opportunity to play any course that's in the top 100 in the world, that's UK, Ireland, and for the most part, like Melbourne and even Sydney.
Have you been and done anything in Asia?
No, nothing. And it's kind of a hole in my glove, but I just haven't done it.
It's so tricky because it's very similar. The top stuff is very similar to the private.
Yeah, I've been to Korea. I've played some Korean golf. I can't, I know Corin Crenshaw have a really incredible golf course in Japan. I just don't, if I'm going to take a big chunk of time, get on a plane for a long period of time and do something like that, it's for me now, especially at my age and where I'm at, I'm going UK, Ireland, Melbourne, Canada. By the way, there's some really cool spots in Canada. I'm going those directions.
Fair. What golf course surprised you the most?
Oh man, that's a great question. Mountain Lake in Central Florida. I remember going, what? That to me is one of the great sort of hidden gems. Now it's private again, going back to private. I think Waterville too. Like I've gotten the chance to play that a bunch. The more I've played it, the more meaningful it is to me. How about St. Patrick's at Rosapenna? That, again, Tom Doak and some of his top associates were there. It was COVID. It's an interesting time, but they took the land that was ultimately going to be 2 golf courses and turned it into 1. Scale wise, going back to Royal Melbourne, going back to like Mammoth Dunes, from a scale standpoint, that's on that card. And I had, North and Northern Ireland has a lot of really amazing things, and Cairn has got that rawness to it and roughness to it. But if you take the polish of like the Royal Melbournes and the Lahinches and Watervilles and you put it on those dunes, That's definitely, that's of what's been built in the last 10, 15 years. That's as good as it gets to me.
What I find really interesting about that, you saying that, is I've heard the price of how much it costs to build, and you couldn't irrigate 3 holes in America for that price. It's crazy what they've done.
And that's also why it's that adds to the layer of brilliance, right? I mean, that is literally, that was there. That was there for the making and the taking as it relates to big, bold, epic, memorable, beautiful reveals as you walking around that golf course, and that finish at 16. I'm not sure if you go there and you don't walk off that golf course going, wow, I can't wait to play that again. I think you're kind of dead inside, honestly. I don't know what to tell you. Golf is not for you. Go do something else.
No, that's fair enough. I respect that completely. To be honest with you, I think we've had a pretty damn good chat. I'm just trying to think if there's anything that I would like to add to it, but we're at that kind of sweet spot for us in terms of what we get to listener numbers. It's like an hour and 10 minutes or so.
It's I love the conversation. I do wildly respect what you do and how you're doing it. It's all subjective, right? We're talking about there really is no right or wrong, but I think I appreciate and enjoyed this conversation, and your angle of questions obviously comes from a really cool and curious and educated place. So we can, hopefully we talk again sometime. Hopefully get to play at some point. I certainly now having met you, knowing where you are, you have to be one of the most popular people on the planet, given your.
No, wow. Not with my golf club.
Therein lies the rub, right?
Well, whenever you are coming over, it'd be great to have you. I can host you, whatever. It's more than happy.
Yeah.
I'm more than happy. It's
we lost Gorka, I think. We lost him. Is he still on?
Yeah, I don't know where he's gone, but I'm sure he's okay. He wanted to just be part of it coming out. So more than happy. Well, thank you very much, Matt. That was really insightful and very interesting. I'm sure another day we'll go deep into something else and more about golf.
Look forward to it.
Top100golfcourses.com has set the standard for golfers worldwide, and now you can wear that standard proudly. Premium apparel and exclusive gear for those who truly know the game. Shop now at top100golfcourses.com.